Out of the inconscient, I build consciousness. Now she is telling her long, long, long story. There was nothing here in conscience, and out of that, slowly, 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 through ages and ages and ages, the cycles after cycles, I have been building up and doing things, and consciousness has appeared in the total void and lead through death to reach immortal life, through death to immortal life. Again, she is asserting it, as long as I am in this lower part, I take the help of death to move towards immortality. Death, in that sense, is a helper for me to move towards immortality. As long as I am here in the field of ignorance, death is a helper to me, because death is something which will kind of take away what is not progressive, what has been assimilated by the soul. It is that which is retained, and in the next birth you make your next life that thing as your foundation and build up, build up, build up. So in that sense, death helps you. Otherwise, it will keep on constantly troubling you. Many are God's forms by which He grows in man. He is a hero, he is a philosopher, he is a thinker, he is a merchant, he is a farmer, every kind of, he is an engineer, everything is there for him, you see. Many are God's forms by which He grows in man. They stamp his thoughts and deeds with divinity. In fact, everything can become of divine. If an artist, I bring the divine touch. If I'm a hero warrior, I bring divine strength in my work. If I'm a thinker, I bring the real idea in my expression. That is the divinity I bring here. Uplift the stature of the human clay, or slowly transmute it into heaven's gold. Transmute it. So I am the alchemist, changing the base material into noble. What is degenerate, I make it pure and refined. That is the transmutation. Heaven's gold, base turning sloth into gold. He is the good for which men fight and die. I hope we do that, but but rarely it happens. You see, He is the good for which men fight and die. But we fight and die. He is a good. You see, because yes, my Brahma is good. Yes, my Allah is good. Yes, my Father is good. You see, we keep on fighting against that and die for that. You see. He is the good for which men fight and die. He is the war, he is the war of right which tighten wrong. He is the freedom rising deathless from her fire. He is valor guarding still the desperate path. He is the valor guarding still the desperate path. Bravery, which does not count on any danger. Valor. It doesn't see any risk at all, any peril at all. I have to fight, I will fight. What are the consequences? I don't care. This is exactly the example we have. Valor guarding the pass. In fact, the reference is to Baji Prabhu, the historical character Baji Prabhu. Baji Prabhu was a hero, and his master Shivaji was being chased by the enemy with a large force, and Shivaji had to reach the fort for safety because he was having a small battalion only with him. He could not fight the invading enemy. So he had to rush to the fort in time before the enemy would catch. Now this Baji Prabhu, he stands at the difficult pass, a narrow passage through which the army has to go. There is a mountain on this side, there is another mountain here, and a small little pass is there. Through that pass, the enemy army has to go, you see. Maji Prabhu with a few soldiers, maybe 100 or so, he stands there with a sword in his hand and stops them, kills them, the enemy forces. And he had promised to his master that I will protect this pass till I hear the sound of the gun from the fort, that you have arrived safely in the fort. How do I know that you have arrived this fort safely? You will sound the gun on the fort. When I hear the sound of the gun, then I'll be free if I have to die. Until then, I will keep on fighting. That was Baji Prabhu's valor to save, to protect the pass, what we call Kinda, you see, in Marathi. Pass, desperate pass. So he was guarding that pass there, Baji Prabhu, with a few people in his hand. Ultimately, the enemy's sword was pushed into his heart and he collapsed. But he still kept on fighting till he wanted to hear the sound of the gun. And when he heard the sound of the gun, he felt relieved and then he left the body at that point. In the body. So I am that valor. Where from the strength has come? It is that cause for which I was fighting. I was fighting for a cause. Actually, this was a most crucial event in the history, in the sense that had Shivaji been captured at that point of time by the invading enemies, then the whole of Maharashtra, that region, would have been converted into Mohammedanism. That was the safety of that thing. Protect the Hindu religion for which he was fighting, the values for which he was fighting. He was protecting for that. And had it not been so, the whole thing would have become a Muslim world, the entire region. So, from the point of view of history, is an extremely crucial event also, you see. And that divine valor comes there. He is valor. You see, he is personifying valor. He is a person, valor. Guarding still the desperate pass, or lone and direct on the shattered barricade, or a sentinel in the dangerous echoing night. He, the crown of the martyr, burned in flame, and the glad resignation of the saint, and courage indifferent to the wounds of time, and hero's might wrestling with death and fate. He is wisdom incarnate on glorious throne. Now she is describing the various qualities of man, of her work. We have got here good and evil constantly. She is tracing all the way from inconscient, how the consciousness was built, and coming first thing is valor. The second thing is wisdom. He is wisdom incarnate in a glorious throne and a calm autocracy of the sage's rule. He the high and solitary thought, aloof above the ignorant multitude. He the prophet's voice, he the seer sight, he the thought. See, basically, now the different qualities. Actually, we can quickly see what he is describing. There are, see, he talks of God's form, no? Many are God's forms. Many are God's forms. He is describing now one by one a few of these God forms. Valor, wisdom, like that. There are in all 18 forms described here. And the 18 forms are good, right, freedom, valor, martyr, courage, hero, wisdom, sage, thought, prophet, seer, beauty, truth, riches, eternity, infinity, immortality. These are the 18 forms of many are God's forms. See, the whole thing is a very systematic essay. He says God's form, then he starts enumerating one by one. Freedom, valor, wisdom, sage, thought, seer, and then beauty. Well, actually, before that, the hero is there. Many others will say, yeah. He is the prophet's voice. I told you prophet also. He is beauty of the passionate soul. He is truth. He is the richest of the spiritual vast, poured out in healing streams of indigent life. He is eternity. He is infinity. He is immortality. Immortality in the arms of death. That's the beauty of it. So these are the 18 powers of God's forms. Describing. These powers I am, and at my call they come. Any one of these powers when I want. Thus slowly I lift man's soul nearer the light. Slowly I lift man's soul nearer the light. But human mind clings to its ignorance. That's a pity. You are in love with ignorance. You are in love with ignorance. You don't want to give it up. And to its littleness, the human heart, smallness, pittiness, this is what we are saying. And to the right, to grieve the earthly life. So that is our quality. We want grief, we want littleness, we want ignorance for our purposes. Only when eternity takes time by the hand, only when infinity weds the finite thought, can man be free from himself and live with God. So that is the condition. Now we have to decide whether we want to live with God or not. We have to decide. If, if we have to do it, then the conditions have to be fulfilled. Only when eternity takes time by the hand, only when infinity with finite thought, time, they have to be part of that process. Then only I bring, well, this is going to happen. Can man be free? One day it will happen. When I come back, Savitri will say, when I come back, I will give all that. One day it will happen. But what happens in meanwhile? In the meanwhile, I bring the gods upon the earth. Varuna, Krishna, Varuna, Agni, Vayu, Indra, I bring them down here upon earth in meanwhile. I bring meanwhile the gods upon the earth. I bring back hope to the despairing heart. I give peace to the humble and the great. I set my grace on the foolish and wise. So I don't make a real distinction at all. My grace is impartial. It is there constantly. Whether to benefit from that, that is not my concern. I give that thing. It is for you to benefit from that. I shall save earth if earth consents to be saved. If earth consents to be saved. Now that is a very big if, madam. If earth consents to be saved. But then what is the use of that thing? What is the use of that promise? If I am not ready, if I am not in a position to give the consent to save, does it mean that I continue to suffer? Yes, you will continue to suffer. There is no way out. There is no way out. See. I shall save earth. Then love shall at last unwounded tread earth's soil. Man's mind shall admit the sovereignty of truth, and body bear the immense descent of God. Now, this is something vastly different than what was there earlier. Body bearing the descent of God. That's the entire Arabundonian thrust on transformation. Body has to bear. Body cannot be condemned and thrown away. It has to get ready. It has to be prepared. The entire yogic philosophy, yogic power, yogic content is present in this single line. Body bear the immense descent of God. That is a long preparation required for that, for the body to prepare. So when the immense descent of God took place on 29th February 1956, the immense descent of God, it took place in the subtle physical of the earth, not in the body. Not in the body. The body has yet to prepare itself for that. It cannot. Body has to prepare for that. And that was the work. The mother was busy. The yoga cells was specifically towards that. To prepare the body to bear the descent of God. To house God in the physical. House God in the physical. Then love shall at last unwounded tread earth's soil, unwounded. She says, at last. Love wanted to come down in 1946 itself. But then things were not ready. Things were not ready for her to come down. Had she come down, she would have been wounded. She would not have been able to walk unwounded upon the earth's soil. She would not have been able to walk unwounded. So she withdrew. She went back. She went back. And then when this was seen, Shebendo had to change his entire strategy of yogic work. Love can come down only when first the supermind is established here upon earth. Then only the divine love can come and walk unwounded. Without the descent of supermind, love cannot walk unwounded upon the earth. So the entire yogic strategy is changed with that. And the first move was to fix the supermind in himself, in his own physical body, to fix it permanently. It was coming and going, but to hold it on completely here, he fixed the supermind in the physical and then left the body. So that, so to say, supermind was trapped, caught, seized in the physical and held there. It cannot escape now, yogically, in the occult way. He withdrew. That is what the passing of Shebendo means. To hold the supermind in the physical and keep it holding there. And when the supermind was that way fixed in the physical, the mother's work moved very rapidly, very rapidly. Within less than 6 years, the supramental descent took place in the subtle physical, 29th February 1956. In less than 6 years, it happened. And then the whole course was different from that point. Man's mind shall admit the sovereignty of truth. That's a big expectation for man. Admitting the sovereignty of truth will take long, long time before that happens. And body, but the promise is there. She's saying that this has to happen. Promise there. And body bear the immense descent of God. And response to that, Savitri will tell, Madonna of Madonna of light, mother of joy and peace. This is the Madonna. Madonna of light, mother of joy and peace. Light, Prakash, joy, Harsha, Shanti. She is one full of light, joy and peace. Thou art a portion of myself put forth to raise the spirit to its forgotten heights and wake the soul by touches of the heavens. And she says, because thou art, the soul draws near to God. Because thou art, love grows in spite of it, and knowledge walks unslain in the pit of night. But not by showering heaven's golden rain upon the intellect's hard and rocky soil can the tree of paradise flower on earth's ground, and the bird of paradise sit upon life's bough, and the winds of paradise visit mortal air. So not by showering this thing will happen. How will it happen? Even if thou rain down intuition's rain, the mind of man will think it earth's own gleam. Yes, this is mind. I have achieved this thing. His spirit, my spiritual ego sing, or his soul dream shut in sainthood's brilliant cell. And one day I shall return his hands in mine, and thou shalt see the face of the Absolute. Thou shalt see the face of the Absolute. This is the most important thing. Now, this is something which is a great thing Savitri is telling to this Madonna. She does not tell to other Madonnas about the Absolute. You lack strength, I will give strength. You lack wisdom, I will give wisdom. But this Madonna, she will see the face of the Absolute himself. That is her greatness. Then shall the holy marriage be achieved. Then shall the divine family be born. There shall be light and peace in all the world. Well, all this will happen when Savitri conquers death. But these are necessary things in between. Savitri's promise will be fulfilled of this kind only when she has conquered death, much later. But these are necessary for Savitri first to discover her own soul. These are the things present in me, but they will find their fulfillment. What is present in me, they will find their fulfillment when I have made soul, when I have harbored in my soul the divine power and conquered death, then all this will happen. Not until then. She sees all the potentialities present in her soul until then.